Welcome to the time of your life. With me today, I've got Alex, a friend of mine that I met dancing at the club, new to Detroit, and a third-year psychiatry resident. My name is David Ploof. I'm your host. Let's get started. Alex, welcome.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you here. So, I want you to imagine you bought a lottery ticket. You checked the lottery ticket, and you won $2 billion.
$2 billion.
You've got $2 billion settled in your bank account. You took care of all the paperwork, every tax liability, everything's been settled. You've got the money in your account. The time is, let's see here, 7:06 p.m. We're in Ferndale, Michigan. What do you do first?
Oh, first. Okay. I have thought about this a little bit, and I sort of broke it down into the guilty pleasure sort of stuff, indulgent sort of stuff, and then the more serious sort of stuff as well. And I was thinking, first it would probably be the fun stuff. That's the easier stuff to do. Doesn't really require a ton of building. Right. Stuff like hosting a really cool party.
You live in Detroit?
Yeah. Downtown
would
Detroit.
The party that you host be at your house, or would you rent a house or buy a new house?
We do have some really nice house parties at our place. We have a super big open layout sort of place.
I'm going to interrupt you really quick. I'm just going to move this a little closer.
And so we have a really nice place, really big open layout. So we have a lot of really good house parties there. We can fit, I don't know, probably 40 or 50 partiers. I don't think I would want a party much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And so I think we'd probably have it at our place and just go all out with party favors.
You have a preferred party favor?
It would be, I can't think of one off the top of my head. We've given out lacy masks and stuff at parties before. Sure. That's kind of fun. But I mean, if you got $2 billion, it would be something more indulgent. I can't think of what right now.
Well, I wasn't sure if you were talking that type of party favor, or I know party favor also has a different connotation in certain contexts.
I was unaware. I didn't mean anything too risque.
Yeah. Well, I can show you. I went to a house party. It was a birthday that a friend of mine had just the other night, and I brought some of these party favors that I thought were pretty good.
Let's see. The classic.
Yeah, this one's a little bit broken, but
I think for $2 billion we could even go for some high quality.
once it don't rip the second time that you blow on them. Yeah, you just might be able to. So, would you say around 50 people that would show up to a party?
Yeah, good question. I think so. So I live there with my fiance. She's a public defender here in Detroit.
Emily?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she has a great group of friends as well. So between the two of us, we could get 50, I'd say, yeah.
And so you invite all these people for the same night, this upcoming weekend.
Man.
So right now it is Tuesday.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other thing to consider is, is the theme of this party, I just won $2 billion, because that's a bizarre theme for a party, and sort of
you'll have some interesting interactions. Yeah, that's for sure.
That would put a whole lot of, weird angles, weird pressures going on there. So I probably wouldn't have it the day of, because that would almost be too suspicious. Right? It would be oh, this guy had something crazy going on, and he's not just going to host a small house party impromptu. I don't think I could get 50 people to come in one night.
Yeah, that'd be pretty difficult.
Right, with no heads up. But if I told them I just won $2 billion, I imagine they'd probably come a little quicker. So, do people know that I won $2 billion?
And also, how would your friends react if they found out? Do you think they would be coming to you for money? Do you think they would be asking you to go on trips?
I think it would be really hard for people not to come to someone who won $2 billion. I don't think that that's an indictment of my friends. I think that...
No, not at all. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's an insane
not
amount
just change your life money, it's change the world money.
It's changed lots of lives.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would tell people I won $2 billion. I don't think I would even change my life too extravagantly. Like I wouldn't necessarily buy a super nice car or something. I'd probably do a little more traveling, and then host cool parties, but not a $2 billion party, right? Like I'd spend,
Right.
I don't know, a couple $1,000s on a house party, 5,000, 10,000 on a house party. That's like the biggest party I have ever been to. Like that'd be rad.
So you start planning this party,
Yeah.
and you start planning it tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I could plan it for this weekend.
Make an invite list. How do you go about making that list?
I would maybe make an invite list. I'm not the most organized person or like list-based person, but yeah, I would start scrolling through my phone and start thinking about who I'd want to come to a party, who's been to parties in the past. And then I'd get M to do the same. And I already have like a couple nice like house playlists.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have to worry too much about that.
You've got your house set up for...
It's pretty well set up. I mean, I could, if I had the money, I mean, I would buy some like LED strips to fucking deck out the ceilings and the walls and stuff. Maybe upgrade the sound system. Yeah. Ours is pretty good, but it's, you can always improve it.
Of course.
Buy like really fancy food and stuff. I think I would have like a really ornate ice structure.
Yeah.
Like a big peacock.
I've seen a few different variations on the ice sculpture. One of which, I don't know I don't drink alcohol. I've been sober for close to 3 years now.
Oh, congrats.
But in the past, that was something that I would indulge in quite frequently. And I saw ice sculptures that had a luge built into them, where you'd pour the shot down the ice sculpture and there'd be someone at the bottom like catching it in their mouth.
I've done ice luges before. I've never done a fancy ice sculpture luge before. I've done the, tap water in the freezer on a mold. And then...
Where do you think you go about finding an ice sculptor?
Good question.
And do you invite him to your party?
I can't imagine an ice sculptor would be down to party too hard. I don't know.
You think they're pretty mild-mannered?
Yeah, that's my guess.
I don't
know.
To refine that skill of carving intricate swans into blocks of ice, there's a certain level of meditation, a certain level of peace and tranquility that doesn't quite match the
sleazy party that's going to be going on. I would feel them out. I would probably be in a pretty good mood if I won all that money. So I could see myself inviting them.
Is that who you call first? The ice sculptor? Or is that low on the list?
That would be probably low on the list. I would probably... Is
that a last minute thing? We got to get this ice sculpture in.
Yeah. I mean, how much for an emergency ice sculpture? I wonder... those Canadians are very like winter focused and ice focused. I don't know. I imagine that if anywhere near here, I don't think there's too many ice sculptors in Detroit, but I could see some in Canada somewhere. Maybe in the Upper Peninsula, actually. That seems like a pretty rustic, artsy kind of thing. Some hipster up there might be doing like wood carvings and ice carvings and stuff like that.
I mean, that's a trip. That'd be Upper Peninsula. That's like 8 hours away.
That's a good point.
I mean, you could have it, money is no object.
Right.
You could have it delivered if that's what you're into. Reeling it back in a little bit, the idea behind the time of your life is less, about how you spend your money and more about the efficiency of how you spend your time, the logistics of planning your life, to see that, money isn't necessarily everything. It helps with a lot of stuff and it can open up a lot of new doors and opportunities. But how are you really going to juice the experience to get the most out of, this thing that we call life or reality or whatever it is?
Very well said. I think about that quite a bit, actually. I have sort of an S-curve philosophy. So if you imagine a curve and your x-axis is the amount of effort you put into any situation, and the y-axis is the results, how much happiness, how much... enjoyment.
Sure, like return on investment type curve.
And I have this philosophy, I have this theory that most things follow an S curve. All right. So at some point, there's a sweet spot where your effort you put in is rewarded quite a bit when that slope is very high. And then it settles off, right? That's
plateaus.
Like right, diminishing returns. And so that's something I think about a lot. And I think that's a great question to ask people is, are you being efficient with your attention, with your life? Are you being purposeful? I like the idea of centering it around gaining $2 billion because an obstacle for everyone's energy or application of their energy is restricted by money.
For many people, yeah.
I may have gotten off topic here. So your question was
just like, what do you do first?
Yeah, planning. I mean, when you've got that many resources.
Do you do digital, pen and paper?
Digital. That's more my style. Yeah. I do take a lot of like paper notes, but digital is just a better way to organize everything.
You have like a digital notes app that you use?
I've used several different ones. I've used Evernote, I've used the Samsung Notes, I use Google Documents.
So right now you got your MySpace top 8.
Yeah.
You got your note listing all your favorite people who you're going to invite to this party on Friday or Saturday. Yet to be determined.
Right.
But we know there's going to be an ice luge there. You got to know.
Definitely. The people that I spend the most time with are my coworkers here. My cohort, the other psychiatry residents and other medical residents here.
Do they know how to party?
Yeah, they're pretty good. Nice. Psychiatrists are, I mean, like doctors are kind of nerdy, you know. I wouldn't think that pediatricians, internal medicine doctors, surgeons, I don't know if they really know how to party much, but psychiatrists, primary care doctors, we're cool.
They know what's
we
up.
can hang. So it would be a lot of the co-residents that I have. Most of my other friends here are friends through M. So she has more friends than I do here.
How long have you been in the city?
I've been here 2.5 years.
And where were you from before that?
Seattle.
How would you compare the two so far? So let's say money was no object now. You can live anywhere. You know, you're going to have this big party here. Do you feel like there's an optimal place to live that you would want to move to, or are you happy with Detroit?
Detroit's been a very pleasant surprise. So I've been here 2.5 years. That was part of the matching process. So after you graduate medical school, you sort of get put into a big algorithm for where you might get sent in the nation. And I was sent to Detroit. And at the time, I knew nothing about Detroit. I had come out here for an interview. I was here for maybe 2 days. I have no family out here, so it was completely fresh. And Detroit's been really a pleasant surprise. I think it's probably a hard place to be poor, and once you get out of that lowest economic bracket, Detroit has opportunities and access for just about everything else. It's got lots of culture. It's got lots of shows that are going on. It's got lots of history, and it's been a really great place. The people are really kind. Now coming from Seattle, there's this thing called the Seattle freeze, and people sort of think that people out in Seattle can be kind of cold. People are usually pretty busy. They're not too friendly to strangers, kind of getting in each other's way. It's a little more crowded. Maybe that's a big part of it.
You think that's just because it's cold there?
No.
Is Seattle, is that the windy city? No, I'm thinking of Chicago.
Yeah. Seattle's very rainy. Detroit's also quite rainy, but Seattle's more so. And we're at the same parallel, so it's pretty gray, just like it is here.
Yeah, I know Seattle, they're big for like Starbucks and Microsoft and
techie stuff.
Yeah.
Nintendo of America is headquartered there.
Oh, yeah.
Amazon, grunge music. And then, Seattle's sort of been the big tech hub after Silicon Valley.
Do you have like a favorite show that you've been to since you've been here in Detroit or back in Seattle?
Since I've been in Detroit, so 2.5 years here, my favorite show. Christmas 2021 was really rad. I would say that's probably my favorite show, but I've been to a lot of really good shows. Millennium stands out 2 years ago.
Oh, Millennium's great. Grizz is great.
Yeah. How about you?
Grizmas is a great one for sure. It depends on, like, there's so many different metrics, you can use to evaluate something like that. When I saw a band called Walk Off the Earth, it was like really impressive for me just because it's like an acoustic band and they play their instruments really creatively. They do a lot of covers, but they've got some original stuff as well. And just the energy they brought to the stage was something that I had like never quite seen before.
Nice.
So for like a live show, I might have to go with them. Electronic stuff, there's so many. Visuals, Excision is like top tier, like just crystal clear. Like I was shocked at how they could get a screen that big in that shape and have those colors,
Nice.
like just those animations was stunning. I think I did see Millennium once a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I really like Movement. Like Electric Forest, of course.
Electric Forest is going to be dope. I'm going this year.
Nice. Yeah. Do you have a favorite act there or anyone there you're excited to see?
All of the headliners are going to be fantastic. Porter Robinson and Odessa are probably the two biggest ones that I'm looking out for, but there's going to be at least 3 or 4 that I'm very excited to see.
Yeah,
there.
Porter Robinson always puts on a stunning show. Odessa is great as well.
Yeah. I think now that I remember Porter Robinson, the show I went to, his show 2021 was probably the best show I've been to here. But I think it's interesting that you break it down between essentially EDM and not EDM.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of a different category, a different beast almost. And that is nice because it gives me a chance to talk about the best non-EDM show I've seen here. Have you heard of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard?
I haven't, but that name is fantastic.
Yeah, they're fucking awesome. They're an Australian psychedelic rock band, but they span so many genres, prolific. And I think they've averaged probably at least 2 albums a year since like
there's a very small chance that I've seen them. I saw another Australian psychedelic rock band that I don't remember the name of that I went to with some friends. And I don't know how many psychedelic rock bands there could be. Maybe there's a lot of them. But this one was like space themed and they had all
crazy.
They
really go into their themes. A lot of their albums are concept albums and sort of either have some established lore or some heavy theme that they explore. So I wouldn't be surprised if you did see them. Tame Impala is sort of the other Australian psychedelic sort of rock act that gets a little more.
Yeah, they're pretty well
attention.
known.
Yeah.
They're pretty big, aren't they?
Yeah. The Murlocs are sort of the other one.
I once saw a band called Twerp, TWRP, and it was an acronym for something. I don't remember what it was an acronym for. And they were like the most gimmicky band I've ever seen. Have you heard of them?
No.
So like just imagine any possible gimmick that a band could have. They were the embodiment of that. They were dressed up in these like space suits or dressed up as superheroes, but like really high quality costumes.
Nice.
And their act was so choreographed and so succinct, like down to the line. Before every song, they would say, "This one's for the ladies," and the crowd would go wild. They had like a cult following that like knew their whole act.
That's fun.
And I had one of the most trippy experiences because after seeing that band, I went to like an after party in a totally different part of town. So I saw them in Ferndale at the Loving Touch, and I went to the Tangent Gallery in Detroit, and there just happened to be a Twerp cover band with slightly less quality costumes, slightly more overweight band members. I was so shocked because I had never heard of this band, and I saw them and a cover band of them in the same night.
That's funny. I wonder if like the cover band follows them around.
They've got to. Yeah.
That's pretty great.
I can't think of any other way that could happen.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's hilarious.
Yeah, music, festivals. You think you'll be going to a lot of those?
Electric Forest is the one I'm looking forward to the most. Movement I went to last year. We live pretty much right by Hart Plaza, so we were able to walk there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. This year, I think I'm going to be out of town for Movement, so I might catch Monday, the last day.
Yeah.
Those are the big festivals. Got tickets to Millennium. I'm seeing Matt Zoe next weekend.
I saw Matt Zoe once in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And it was a great show. Like, I listened to some of his music beforehand, and it was like, it was all right, yeah. But when you see it live,
nice,
it really pumps up everything.
Yeah, I saw, it was, I don't remember how I saw the tickets, but it was pretty cheap, and I just ended up getting them. And then I started watching some sets, and he's got, like, some really trance heavy stuff and then some techno and house sort of stuff as well. So I have no idea what type of show it's going to be, but I've liked it.
Do you have any kind of like dream festivals that you would attend?
Electric Forest, probably. Yeah. I think maybe one, like, what's the one they do in like Ibiza or like Amsterdam?
I think Ibiza is just like, from what I understand, it's an ongoing 365-day music festival all year. I'm like, don't quote me on that. I've never been. But I think it's just like party town.
Yeah. There are a couple others that stand out. EDC seems awesome, but it seems a little overwhelming to me. I don't think I would want to do that. Holy Ship. I don't know if that's even still running, but I really like the idea of a cruise and EDM shows every night for like 3 or 4 nights.
I've never been on one of the cruises, but that's probably like my top goal.
Yeah. I think I'm definitely going to make that happen at one point in the future. The show the festival I'm thinking of is maybe Tomorrowland. It's like trance focused.
Yeah,
it's like,
I think it's like Germany or
Amsterdam, Netherlands,
somewhere
Germany. So that maybe Tomorrowland. And any cruise-based rave.
I saw festival. Kesha has her own Kesha cruise. It's like a 4-day Kesha festival.
Yeah.
And, she's got all the supporting acts. And I was really sad that I couldn't go.
I would do that.
Yeah. Right?
I would definitely do a 4-day Kesha cruise.
Now, the question is, there's only so many weekends in the year. Do you think you'll be going to festivals every, just back to back to back to back, lined up?
Yeah.
If you've got money is no object, or do you spend your time in different ways?
Yeah, good point. You could burn out on festivals, I think. I don't think I would go to festivals back to back, even if I did have all the money in the world. I'd probably go to a couple more shows. I think I'd go to a show maybe once every 3 months or so, and that's been pretty good.
Yeah, that's still pretty low. I thought you were gonna say once a week.
No. That's been good. Yeah. And then I'll go out to like Big Pink or something.
Sure.
Like maybe once a month, something like that. And if I had all the money in the world, I'd probably find a couple artists that I really wanted to go to in like some nice venues and random places and follow them. Follow them, but
do you think you would follow them or would you book them?
Follow them versus book them, like one show versus many shows,
or like a private party.
Private party? I don't know. I don't know if I would want to do a private party or like meet the artist backstage or anything. You
just want to watch from afar.
I'd watch from close, like pit tickets and like good seats and stuff. But I don't really have that desire to like meet celebrities or meet people backstage. Doesn't really sound super appealing.
Well, you said right now you're a resident. Is that correct? Would you drop out of your residency or would you continue?
No, I would continue. I feel really fortunate to be where I'm at, and I couldn't imagine not doing it. For a couple reasons, and one being, there's only like so many residency spots nationwide, and like, dropping out in your 3rd year of training or your 4th year of training is there's only a couple thousand psychiatrists that are being trained.
Yeah, that's amazing. Exclusive group.
It is. It feels kind of weird sometimes. Like there's no doctors in my family. There's, not that many people that like even went to university in my family. So it's been kind of weird sort of switching social classes in a way.
Yeah.
And so now I do kind of sometimes feel like I'm surrounded by like exclusive people and like people with generations of wealth and stuff. And that's been a little funny, a little weird, sort of like hanging out with those type of people. It's not bad. And those type of people, I just mean like people with different backgrounds.
Do you have any perspective of like the biggest differences that you notice between the like quote unquote upper echelons of society versus, just the whoever man on the street?
Yeah. It's maybe what type of stuff people are anxious about, I would say. Like being anxious about what food you're going to eat and where you're going to sleep doesn't really allow you the room to be fulfilled or creative in the same ways, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
It allows a lot more freedom. And then, people who are wealthier, better off, get more anxious about social stuff, personal stuff, I guess. That comes to mind. It's really about what you can't do more so than what you can, I think. Like, I don't really know many people that are so wealthy that they can afford to just do an impromptu vacation to Europe or something. But for instance, growing up, there were times where I wouldn't be able to hang out with friends because I couldn't, afford to go out that weekend, or they couldn't afford to go out that weekend.
Right.
And so I think it's maybe a bigger difference is what you can't do, like the freedom to be spontaneous and splurge and give gifts. That's one of the bigger differences I've noticed.
Profound. Something that I went through a little more than a year ago now, I had my jaw broken. I was roundhouse kicked in the face. I've told this story a couple times on the podcast. And I had my jaw wired shut for 8 weeks. Or 7, I think it was wired shut for 7 weeks. It took me a week before I was able to get treatment. And so it was 8 weeks of like not being able to eat at all. And that really set my perspective on life, where now, ever since then, it took me a long time where I was just sort of self-isolating and being very reclusive because, I didn't want to go out in the world and be around like big crowds of people or anything like that. But then I got to a point where just all of like the social stuff, like it doesn't matter at all. Like I learned what's really important is, survival or just the idea of like your basic needs being met.
Right.
And my baseline reference point for what is good and what is bad just got totally reset.
Yeah.
And it felt like this like great awakening for me.
Nice.
Where I could let go of all these stresses and these like worries and like things that people like care about that are for the most part illusory, like illusions.
Yeah.
And it feels really great. And like the reason that I jog still is to sort of maintain that baseline of like,
nice. Well said.
The idea that like everything's okay. Nothing is really like that bad when you actually slow down, take a breath, and just exist in the present moment.
Yeah. There's a couple things that come to mind with you saying all these things, but have you heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a great framework to have these type of discussions. My similar experience that I had, I've had a couple near-death experiences.
Oh yeah.
So I used to drive for Uber, drive for Lyft, drive for Amazon.
Nice. So did I.
Yeah. It was a good way to make a little bit of money. I really hated having a boss. And I could practice harmonica while doing it. Or
you play harmonica?
I practiced harmonica. I can play, Piano Man and like,
hey,
that's about it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but it was it was something to keep
Do you
myself.
still have one? Do you like carry it around in your pocket?
I do, yeah. I have it.
Do you have it on you?
No, I do. Not in my pocket. I have it on my computer desk, and I have a reminder that goes off my phone like once a week to
practice harmonica.
Yep.
You don't want to lose it. You gotta keep the rust off.
Yeah, no, I literally set reminders in my calendar to like go practice harmonica, like go work out, like go find a recipe, because like you become complacent. And so those type of things help kind of keep me down to earth. So I want to tell you about the near-death experience I had driving for Uber, driving for Lyft. I was on the road all the time. Seattle's not an easy place to drive. Lots of hills, lots of rain, lots of sleet, lots of bad drivers, lots of on and off ramps that are sort of poorly made. And one day I was driving on an off ramp, slowing down from like 60 to 30, and someone was coming up the wrong way. And they were accelerating, going from 30 to 60. And I swerved out of the way, hit the side of the road, but they kept going and hit the person behind me. And I don't know which one of them, but one of them ended up dying.
Oh my gosh.
And then I've seen one other really bad car accident on I-5 on the big freeway there, and at least a couple other small ones. And that really helped change my perspective as well.
So in that accident, were you were kind of like driven off into the wall, it sounds like? Mm-hmm. Was your car like totaled? No. Were you injured at all?
No.
Or?
Nope.
No, you just like sideswipe, kind of scraped.
Yeah, scraped. Yeah. And this was an old beater of a car. The car I learned to drive on, a 1995 Jeep Grand Cherokee. It probably had 150,000 miles on it at that point. It had dents on it. It had scrapes on it. So this didn't even look out of character for it. One of the doors got a little scraped. It didn't even have to get repaired.
Tis but a scratch.
It was tis but a scratch. I got sort of shaken, but I didn't even come to a full stop. I sort of skidded and bumped it and then corrected and got out of there.
Yeah.
The other accidents have been pretty close to me as well. 4 lanes of traffic. Someone cuts over all 4 lanes. I sort of was out of the way, I guess, and went by it, but 3 or 4 cars piled up right behind me, and then probably a couple more after that. But I just kept driving because I wasn't hit.
What could you do? Yeah. So how do you feel your life changed from like before that moment and after that moment?
Yeah.
Was there like just a change in your outlook on the world, or did you change your behaviors, or?
I changed. Probably the behaviors came afterwards. I think what came first was sort of an appreciation for how fragile life is, and how quick things can change. And that made me think how much I already have. I was living with my mom at the time, a parent who's worked very hard for me and supported me and loves me. That was a shitty car, but it was my car. And, I had a job and shelter, and it really made me feel better about my situation in life. And then after that came behaviors. Like I sort of realized after a while, after a couple days, after a couple weeks, like, things are pretty good. And then sort of becoming aware of gratitude and what type of role that can have. Maybe not because of that, but shortly after that, I started doing like gratitude reflections and thinking about things that I'm grateful for. And so I think that's probably made me a calmer person, less anxious, more grateful, kinder. I don't know if it's all because of that car crash, but that's a big explosive before and after point sort of to point to. Yeah.
Do you think if you had $2 billion that people would try to kill you?
If everyone, like if, you have to have your face when you receive the $2 billion check, like, I don't know if Michigan's one of the states that makes you do that or not.
I mean, for the most part, for this podcast, for fantasy purposes, I've been telling people that they are able to remain anonymous.
Okay.
But at the same time, like there are limited people that I assume you would tell. Of course, you'd tell your fiance.
Yeah.
You'd possibly tell some close friends or family. Or maybe not. I don't know what the dynamics are like. With
Right.
that.
Right. I would tell my fiance for sure.
Do you think she would tell people?
If I asked her not to, I don't think she would. No. No, she
knows what's up.
She knows what's up. We've had this conversation before. Yeah.
Just in case.
I would probably tell my sister and maybe my mom, maybe my dad, maybe my grandma.
Would you give them money, or do you think they would ask for money?
I would give them money, and I think they would ask eventually, but I think that I would give the money before they asked for it.
Yeah.
And then honestly, in terms of my friends, I might actually give them like anonymous gifts or something. Be like, hey, someone just won a whole lot of money, but they want to remain anonymous. So
you would tell them, you would say, hey, someone that's definitely not me.
No, right. No, they would receive an anonymous card in the mail, or perhaps like a door-to-door greeter or something. And then
one of those like singing telegrams.
Yes, exactly. A singing telegram. Actually, yes, it would definitely be a singing telegram.
They dress up as all sorts of stuff. Like, do you have anything
like bellboy?
It could be dressed up as like a dollar bill. Or something.
Pretty rad.
Your friend has something to tell you.
Congrats. I can't imagine what I would have them dress up at. Man, paying someone to send a message and dress up just feels kind of gross. But
but also like if I was that person, like if I was like trying to hustle and trying to make my way in the world and I didn't have much going on, and someone was like, hey, I'll pay you whatever, $500 to go deliver this message and sing, I'll be like,
put on this.
Like,
that's a good
where
point.
do I go?
That's a good point. So I would definitely do the singing telegram. I can't think of a funny costume right now.
That's to your family or your friends?
To my friends.
Like how many people do you think that is? Is that your whole list of 50? Does that come with the party invite for Friday?
Right. Yeah, good call. And the other thing would be hard if like all of these friends did a little bit of deduction. They might be able to like...
Yeah, you think they're communicating with each other?
They could. The telegram could be like...
Whoever gets the first one. Yeah.
Right. The telegram could be like, make sure you don't tell anyone or something as well.
You're being inducted into a secret society. I need your sworn secrecy before we can proceed.
I think it would be also pretty rad to like plan a trip to Ibiza or something, or some cool place with like...
Just like charter a private jet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like 15 people or something. And
how much notice would you give them? And do you think that
months.
Your friends have the time? Or if you gave them a couple months, you think they'd be able to take the time?
I had a pretty great group of friends. They were pretty spontaneous, pretty...
That's a really good characteristic to have. Yeah,
I think so
spontaneity.
too. Yeah, I think a lot of them would come, especially with a couple months heads up. Not too many of my friends. I mean, some of them are like starting to have kids and stuff. That could maybe be an obstacle, but a lot of them are
staying kids.
Yeah, right. A lot of them have supportive partners or family families nearby. So I think they'd be able to take a weekend off if they got a singing telegram that said your buddy just won $2 billion and you can have $20,000 if you come on this party. If you come and party and have a good time, you can get $20K.
So let's say, you plan like a few months out this private trip to Ibiza.
Yeah.
While you're on the trip, are you just paying for everything? Do you have like a black card, or do you give your friends $20,000 each and say, this is your party money?
Good
how do you...
question. I think I would just have everything... all the thing would be stocked. The cruise ship or the jet plane or whatever would be stocked. And it would just be a situation where everyone would take whatever they want, and then it would be charged.
Stocked with like alcohol, like anything else. Like, you know, you got your little party blowers, party favors.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I can't imagine what. I mean, like fancy food and stuff.
Yeah. Do you have like a favorite, like fancy expensive meal or a favorite fancy expensive beverage? Like, I don't know if you're a champagne guy or you just stick with whatever.
Champagne is a classic
rich person's drink.
Absolutely. I can't say I've had like really fancy champagne, but all of like the middle class or like middle shelf champagne I've had has been nice. Like, you do want to show off a little bit. You already have the private jet though. I don't think I would. Maybe I would just go for like Kirkland brand champagne or something, like just to confuse people, or have like
stay humble. You gotta stay humble.
Yeah, just like something like that. And what else would be there? Yeah, you know, fancy chocolate. Maybe
Ooh, yeah.
that
you could get like a string quartet.
Okay,
I mean,
solid.
do you want a string quartet and like, you know, ambiance, candlelit atmosphere that's kind of a little bit romantic, but very
stodgy,
nice, relaxed kind of vibe? Or you could go like full party, lasers, DJ, turn up.
That's how it would go down for sure. I've just remembered the fancy rich people thing of like eating sushi off of naked models.
Ooh,
Is there a name for that?
I think I've seen like living charcuterie board.
Okay.
Is like one, but that's charcuterie is something else. That's like meats and cheeses and stuff. But yeah, like a live sushi table. Yeah, that'd be pretty good. Would you just like hire, like, where do you find that person?
Not Craigslist. Maybe the
I found a lot of stuff on Craigslist. I found this place on Craigslist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've found some shit.
I'm honestly a big fan of Craigslist.
Yeah.
I get a lot of stuff.
I've lived with like roommates off Craigslist before, and maybe the ice sculptor would know. Maybe they would even.
So once you find the ice sculptor, you think maybe he's got to connect to a live sushi table? Because I almost feel like that's something that you could just like get one of your friends to do. If you're close enough, you just be like, listen, nothing matters anymore. We're all just going to be so indulgent and so hedonistic. Like, who wants to be the sushi table tonight?
Oh my God. I don't think I would go that route.
You would just have a stranger there.
That's the thing, like having a stranger there.
Because now they're on your plane and they're going with you to Ibiza. They're going to be there the whole time, unless you've got like some separate room for them to, you know, stow away.
Maybe some type of like, oh man, like a butler situation where like they're just there to sort of indulge the whims of the entire party.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. That feels gross.
Yeah, it feels a little icky to me, but you know, I'm sure you can find someone to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we're already there with a pilot. Like,
and then what's the like time frame on that? You know, are you like, you're with us for the whole week, or you just bring them on the plane and send them home, or
send them?
Do you conduct like interviews for this? Do you interview multiple people?
Yeah, like who can keep their chest the straightest? And
you got take headshots, or
man, no, I think. Man, maybe you put them in a GIMP suit or something so you don't have to see them.
So okay.
I mean, like that would cut down on one aspect of weirdness, but
it would, but also then like I'm not really sure like if I would really. I'm just thinking about the like hygienics of it all.
No, I mean,
like you'd want someone to be like really clean.
Yeah. Nice leather suit. Keeps all the germs away.
And then you'd be like eating sushi off of the leather. I feel like that almost defeats the purpose a little bit. I mean, I suppose I don't. If the purpose is just like show how much wealth you have, then maybe not.
Yeah.
But at that point, do you even need to like flaunt? Like, who are you flaunting to?
Right. The flaunting is
just to yourself.
Well, it's a trip to Ibiza with all your friends and maybe even some fancy champagne. I think everything else would just sort of be like comfortable stuff, not like crazy luxury stuff. Like no Dom Perignon or fucking, super high class Swiss chocolate or anything, but like, Lindt chocolate or like, some.
Yeah, you can get that at Meijer.
Yeah. And it's good chocolate.
Yeah. Oh, the truffles?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good chocolates. They're nice. They just melt in your mouth.
They're really good. I used to think that there were truffles in them.
Like mushrooms?
Yeah, I used to think that until not so long
Well, I
ago.
wonder, like, why are they named that? Why are they called truffles?
I looked it up. I don't think I ended up finding a good answer, but I wasn't satisfied. You thinking about it? There's definitely no truffle taste there. No. I don't know why I thought there were truffles. I just didn't think about it too hard.
They're both expensive. Yeah. I wonder if that has something to do with it.
Oh yeah, just sort of like fancy chocolate, like truffle chocolate.
Yeah,
that could be it.
The more we say the word truffle, it's just starting to lose meaning in my mind.
Yeah, kind of a
like ruffles have fridges.
Word.
Truffles are for people who own bridges.
In a fancy French accent, like souffle.
Well, that almost sounds like souffle, and it's like it totally.
Yeah, I mean it's French. It that makes it. I don't know. It gets some of the magic back to it.
Yeah,
sounds a little more high class.
High class. You like mushrooms? Do you like actual truffles? Have you ever tried truffles?
I've never had a whole truffle. I love truffle oil, and I think maybe I've had like truffles on. I don't know. Was it come on usually like a steak?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever had truffles either.
Yeah, like truffle butter.
I've had like truffle fries. I think we're made with like truffle oil.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a bar in Detroit, something lounge. It's not the Outer Limits Lounge. It's something Lights, Northern Lights Lounge. Yeah, I had some truffle fries at the Northern Lights Lounge.
Nice.
It's a cool spot.
Yeah, yeah. I would think like I would put truffle oil on everything if I had $2 billion.
Do you think you'd get like tired of it?
Of truffle
oil?
Yeah, it's pretty rich. Like I wouldn't be able to.
I mean, what do you think your diet would be like as a billionaire? Do you think it would be any different than what it is now?
It would be a little bit different. I would buy a little bit more organic stuff. I hate making food. I could definitely see myself hiring someone to make food for
Private
me.
chef?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you get, like you said, you're pretty happy with your house now. Do you think you would have like a larger like kitchen renovation or anything like that to like cater to your private chef?
That's a good question. Our kitchen is a good size. Like they'd be able to come in and get everything done that they needed to. But I mean, having that much money, I can't imagine not buying another property somewhere. Whether it's, I mean, I don't know. We'd probably still, I don't know. Would it still be in Detroit? Maybe not. Maybe we'd.
How do you feel about weather? Are you like a warm weather, cool weather?
Yeah.
I mean, Seattle and Detroit are both kind of like 4 seasons ish.
They are 4 seasons, but I prefer skipping over the bad seasons. I'm not really much of a snow person. I don't.
Yeah, snow's tough.
I don't ski. I grew up in Australia.
Oh yeah.
First like 7 out of my first 10 years.
Oh wow.
And so I definitely miss that. And the warm weather.
Does it get like obscenely hot there, or is it just
It does get obscenely hot. 110.
Dry?
Not always. It's usually the humidity is actually quite high.
Yeah.
So I would want to go somewhere warm. I mean, I've driven through California a couple times. I've stayed there a couple times. California seems like the place where a lot of rich people go. Like if money's not an obstacle, people go live on the California coast, right? Or the Florida coast, maybe Florida Keys.
Yeah. Florida. I feel like Florida's a lot of retirees. Yeah. Like it depends on where you go. I suppose like Key West is a little bit more hip. I think is that the one that's like it's all canals. It's like all the houses are just have their own docks because everyone has a boat.
Yeah. At least one boat.
That'd be pretty cool. Do you think you'd get a boat?
I don't really love boats that much. I like going out on boats. I like it when other people have boats.
Do you have a favorite kind of boat? I mean, like I guess if you're going on the Kesha cruise or the Holy Ship,
cruise ship.
I mean that'd be a whole big cruise ship. But at that point, I almost I've never been on one of those ships. But I feel like you would almost forget that you're on a ship.
If it's that big.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the really big ships rock really slowly, and that can be a problem for a lot of like seasick people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I would get a yacht. That doesn't really sound super appealing to me, or boats in general. Even if I had $2 billion, I don't
Yeah,
think I'd
not.
get a yacht.
What do you think like an average day would be like? How much different would it be from your average day now?
Good question. I definitely would see having a private chef most of the time.
And he would be cooking you.
It'd be simple stuff, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't eat a ton of red meat anymore. It'd be a lot of chicken, just various chicken dishes. I eat a lot of like berries and nuts and salads. So, like I eat really healthy, but really lazy. Like sometimes I don't even get plates. I just eat handfuls of nuts or handfuls of salad. Like
I gave up meat around the same time I gave up alcohol. I gave up cheese this past New Year's.
Tough.
So I'm like 95% plant-based. I'll still eat like breads and cookies and like things that have like eggs or butter in them. I'm not that strict on that. But apart from that, I'm almost like totally just with the plants.
Nice.
And it feels good. I feel like I always have energy. Like I noticed like back when I would eat meat, it would just slow me down. It was almost like I would be paralyzed with comfort. And I'll notice that sometimes even just like now, it like irrelevant to my diet. Like if I'm in bed and I like, you know, for most people or a lot of people, I think have the experience of it being difficult to get out of bed because you're so comfortable in your bed. And I had this thought the other day. It's like, right now I am paralyzed with comfort. Like, it's not that I can't move. It's that, why would I move? Everything is so nice right now.
Well, that's funny that that's what you think about. Because, you know, discomfort is important to life satisfaction and, you know, gratitude.
Absolutely.
Do you take cold showers?
Yeah, every day.
Every day?
Yeah.
Do you take hot showers at all?
I'll start it cold and then I'll turn it to hot.
I do it the other way. I start hot and then end with a cold shower.
Well, sometimes I'll start it cold and then it'll get hot and then I do like a blast of cold at the end.
Yeah, I think that's a decent way to do it.
Yeah.
You ever go to the Schwitz near here?
I've been there. I haven't been there in a long time. I was actually just talking to a friend about it. We were making a plan to go down there.
Pretty cool place.
Saunas are great.
Saunas are great, and they have an awesome cold plunge pool as well. You know, I've gone a couple times and you just go in sauna, cold plunge, back and forth. I would build a dope sauna. I would definitely have that for myself. We don't.
Would it be like a multi-person sauna or like a small sauna?
Yeah, two to three people or something. I think you can build those pretty small. I actually had a friend recently who built like an 8-person sauna, and he put it in essentially an old moving van.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and he can.
Was it like it's a working functional vehicle?
Yes. No, it's the trailer. It's like.
Okay. So it's just stationary, but.
It's you can like put it on. You can hitch it to a car.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
But it can fit like 8 people in it. I don't know how.
How does what's like?
I haven't seen it yet. He's shown me photos. I want to go try it. I think I will try it soon. But he told me all about it. He basically lined it all with wood, and then his dad's sort of involved in electric, like an electrician or something like that, and so he helped set
all the heat. Wow. I wonder, like, what would be the coolest place to take something like that?
Yeah.
I imagine you would take it to, like, one of the Great Lakes or the ocean. It seems like a good place because then you could get in the sauna and then immediately, like, jump in the cold.
That'd be rad. When I learned about it, it was, like, right after I got tickets to Electric Forest, and I thought about what it would be like taking it there, and I think that would be a disaster.
Yeah, people are get a little gnarly there.
Be so dehydrated, like people would just straight up die.
So dehydrated and also just like filthy.
Yeah,
because there's so much dust. Everyone gets so dusty.
That's a good point.
And then you just be like scraping grime off of yourself. Yeah.
But where I'm at doesn't really have room to put a sauna, so we would have to we would have to probably get more property somewhere.
Yeah, I met a guy a few years ago. This was probably like 4 or 5 years ago. I wish I still knew him, but I lost contact with him, who had built a sauna in his garage. And it, from the outside, it looked like just some like beat up garage that was like run down. And then you go inside and it's a totally new, finished, like beautiful sauna.
Nice.
And he would just have people over and be like, "Oh yeah, we got the sauna running today." They would have like experimental music shows in their house. Yeah. It was a really, really cool spot. So, and the guy's name was Dave. So Dave, if you're out there, hit me up. Let me come to your sauna.
So we've talked about like, the indulgent thing, the party sort of stuff I would do with $2 billion. But I also think that there's some more like maybe responsible things I would do with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like,
how would you change the world or change yourself?
What I would want to do is be able to sort of fund my own type of clinic, like a psychiatry clinic, mental health clinic. I am really interested in, a lot of psychiatry, but psychedelics are a particular interest to me, and they're, sort of the bleeding edge of psychiatry right now. And it can be really hard to do proper funding for that research. There are doctors that grow psilocybin and can prescribe it in their own specific types of practices, not like Medicare or Medicaid practices, but private pay situations. And they've told me that they've had good results. I like all of the studies that I see about it. It's pretty neat. It's inexpensive. It's a cool way to sort of cut insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies out of things, which is huge. And I really like helping people with depression and anxiety and PTSD. It's very rewarding. And I think that would be a pretty effective way to do it.
That's awesome. Yeah. You think psilocybin specifically, or have you looked into like ketamine or like LSD? I don't know if there are other.
Right. The big ones right now is ketamine. Ketamine has been approved for treatment-resistant depression.
I get ads for it all the time.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It is. It has been pretty popular on like podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's an IV form you can give, and then they just sit there for a couple hours. They infuse it. People usually trip a little bit, and then you watch them for a couple hours and send them home. There's also a nasal form that you can prescribe to people, and they can just take it home with them.
Like a nasal spray.
Yeah. Yeah. And ketamine's shown pretty good results. There are some questionable study methods with the big studies that have been released. They have sort of had to repeat experiments several times before getting good results. And so in some ways it might be overhyped a little bit, but it's still cheap, new, and promising overall. And then so that's the ketamine side of things. Psilocybin has its own promises. It's not approved for anything yet at this point, but likely will be. I think they're in phase 3 trials right now, so human trials, for treatment-resistant depression, alcoholism, opioid addiction, PTSD, and looks very promising with very few side effects. LSD and MDMA are being researched, I think. I haven't really checked what's going on with them. But all of those are really promising and pretty interesting. It's kind of neat too, because they're taboo and risque and kind of fun to talk about for that reason.
There's something about doing something that you weren't allowed to do, that stick it to the man.
Yes.
It just feels good for some reason.
Absolutely.
I don't what do you think that is? Why do you think there's that urge to rebel, or
it's maybe also validating curiosity. Yes, I imagine so. I find something satisfying in questioning authority, or questioning the established norms, and sort of breaking out of that, and then pointing it and be like, look, you were wrong about this. You could be wrong about anything. That's exciting.
Yeah. It opens an entirely new like world of possibilities.
Yeah. Like, hey, maybe we were wrong about this as well, or maybe we were wrong about that as well. Like maybe we should rethink and reimagine our biases and, what we know about chemicals or society or people.
Yeah, there are just like certain switches that get flipped that can open up like so much in your awareness or in your like just like the ideas of potential things that could exist. I've recently in the past week, but also for much longer than that, been really interested in like logic and like reading a little bit the philosophy or the theory behind computer programming.
Oh, cool.
I haven't done like any computer programming myself, but I've watched a lot of interviewers with computer programmers. I've lived with computer programmers, and I feel like I've just absorbed a lot of the culture kind of through osmosis, just being around it. And it's something that's interesting to me. And the idea of like the way transistors work and how within biology, like the way ion gated channels exist within our bodies, are essentially just, transistors in a different substrate is pretty cool. And the idea of like action potentials, how when you open up these new layers of calculation, when you open up like these new capacities for data, essentially like larger bandwidth, the like things that can be revealed within your consciousness or just like the possibilities can grow exponentially, where something that you would never have thought was possible all of a sudden becomes a reality.
I think that's awesome. One of the things I like about psychiatry is we don't really know biochemically exactly how any of our drugs work. Like we don't even really know how antidepressants work.
Yeah.
No. We have some ideas. We know, we're probably raising some serotonin levels here. We're probably raising some dopamine levels there, but there's, 30 different types of gates that accept serotonin.
Yeah.
So, and they all do different things and they all have different density ratios and that can make a difference. And so we don't really know what we're doing. Like blood pressure drugs, we kind of know exactly how they work. Psychiatry drugs, not so much. We know that psilocybin, psychedelics are novel. They don't work like the other medications we have. We think that maybe part of why they work and why they sort of expand people's bandwidth or capacity is because it helps form new neural connections.
Yeah, something that I've heard from a lot of different sources is that like psychedelics specifically have the unique quality of really enhancing neuroplasticity, like allowing pathways to form in novel ways. And something that was like really interesting to me was like, I think there was like brain scans or something done like comparing an adult on psychedelics to just like an average child. And it was like very similar. Yeah. Like the idea that children are just always in a psychedelic state, that just perceiving the world, like everything is new to them. Everything is developing and they're, making new connections all over the place, was something that was pretty interesting to me. And I think it was like a Huberman lab. I'm sure you're familiar. He was talking about the idea that like neuroplasticity can be a very good thing for like learning new things and, picking up new skills. But to a certain extent, you don't always want to be perfectly neuroplastic because then everything is just always confusing. Right. And there are reasons that the certain pathways become, reinforced in like an average person, and the idea like being that you want to change something with someone that's got PTSD, but in someone that doesn't, it's just, you're kind of rolling the dice, scrambling, and also like the importance of having someone there, a trip sitter, so to speak, or set and setting, making sure, you're in the right environment, all being like so critical to having desirable results.
Definitely. Yeah, that's huge. I've seen a couple studies really emphasizing the use of having blinders on so that you're not distracted by what's going on. I wonder if that's because the visual aspects of tripping could scare some people. I don't know if that's the reason why or not, but for whatever reason, having the blinders on is a pretty effective part of it. Actually,
like literal blinders?
Literal blinders, yeah. Like mask.
Oh, like a full eye mask?
Yeah, an eye mask.
When you say blinders, I think like horse racing, like blinders, like you can only look forward. Like that'd be kind of silly. I mean, they can't they just turn their head?
That is a little silly. Definitely the masks.
Yeah,
the eye masks.
Have you tried any like psychedelics yourself? You don't have to share if that's something sensitive.
Yeah. I have passing experience with that type of stuff, especially being around people that have done it. I was often the designated driver, so I'm typically the sober person in the group. I have enough experience to make me a responsible doctor, I think. Like enough insight to sort of know what that's like when my patients talk about their experiences.
It's like they make the cops get tased before they can have a taser.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. That's an interesting parallel. I also wonder if maybe the world would be a better place if everyone just got spiked with a little bit of psilocybin once, or like a little bit of MDMA.
I feel like it would have to be a regular thing.
A regular thing?
Yeah, like maybe every couple of years, like once every like 3 or 4 years, you gotta
go in for like a tetanus shot or something.
Yeah,
you gotta go.
Gotta get your
MDMA trip. Time for a booster.
Time to remind you that everything is connected, and
I genuinely think the world would be a better place if everyone was forced in a responsible setting to do a little bit of MDMA every couple of years.
It's funny, even like bringing it up like that, because there were some, I believe, like ancient cultures where it's described in so many different like contexts, but the idea of like a vision quest of like coming into adulthood or manhood or whatever, like, oh, here's some ayahuasca. Like you can't be part of the tribe until you undergo this experience and like learn about like this spiritual thing or whatever.
Yeah. That's super neat.
And like in a way that is, kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah. Confronting something, going in with one frame of mind and having your frame of mind changed, but not something that takes years, right? Not something that you can slowly acclimate to. It's something that changes.
Just like slaps you in the face.
Slaps you in the face. Exactly. Like that. I think that's part of the experience as well.
Kicks you in the face in my circumstance. Hey.
Oh yeah. That's when you got Roundhouse kicked?
No. Well, I don't think it was related. It's impossible to say, what is and isn't causal.
Yeah.
I had a drink called kava. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah,
I was on the Big Island of Hawaii. It's a pretty popular drink there. It's like a tea made from a root or a bark or something. It's called kava root. And it is, I don't think it's classified as a psychedelic. Maybe it is, or it's like a psychedelic enhancer. It just makes people feel like kind of happy and like a bit sedated. I would say probably sedated would be one of the predominant effects. But I was at a kava bar and I had some kava, and it was a karaoke night at the kava bar. And a fight broke out in the street, and I was wrong place, wrong time, got too close, and boom.
Damn.
Yeah.
So has karaoke been a big part of your life? Seems like you've brought it up a couple times so far.
Yeah, I love singing.
Fuck yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Karaoke's awesome.
I just like having something to do. I'm here by myself. Like I lived with my mother for a long time. I've had probably half a dozen different living situations. But particularly when I'm by myself, I start to go crazy if I'm alone for too long. So I like to stay social, but I'm also not the best at planning things or inviting people to things. And like karaoke is a really easy thing to just show up to and participate and be around people and you just let loose, nothing matters. It's all for fun.
I like bar trivia for the same thing.
There's a bar trivia that I go to pretty consistently on Tuesdays. Our team hasn't gone in a few weeks, so that's why we're here today.
Sure.
But yeah, trivia is great.
Yeah. Both of those things. Yeah. Just, I relate to what you're saying. Like, sometimes it's nice to have something a little structured, but not too structured.
Yeah. Another one that I like that I discovered recently, I've been going to stand-up comedy.
Fuck yeah.
And I found like my dream bar that does stand-up comedy in one room. And in the next room over, there's karaoke happening simultaneously.
Shit.
So you can just walk back and forth.
This is in Detroit?
It's in Hamtramck, yeah.
Oh, shit. What's the place called?
Ghostlight.
Ghostlight?
The Independent. The Independent is the name of the comedy club. Ghostlight is the name of the bar. And it falls under the umbrella of Planet Ant.
Okay.
And they also have like a larger venue that they'll rent out to like various events.
Neat. And so do they do stand-up comedy pretty regularly?
Yeah, well, the comedy club there, like that's all they do.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, I don't know if it's every night. There's open mics, I think Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and performances or classes like some other days of the week.
That's cool. I would do an open mic night. I've been like writing down notes and stuff or like, I don't know, shit that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
And been compiling that for years. I'm sure I could come up with 5 minutes of material and
yeah. And once you get there, a lot of people will have that experience of like watching other people go, and it's like, oh, everyone wants to laugh. Like anyone who is at a comedy club is there because they're already prepped, they're already like in the mood to want to be having a good time, to want to laugh. So it's not always difficult as long as you don't say anything like bigoted, which a lot of people have a problem with, surprisingly enough. But I had a funny experience where I did stand-up comedy. I walked into the karaoke room. I saw a friend that I see there pretty regularly. And I said, oh, like, hey, how's it going? Like, I just did comedy. And she said, you just did ketamine? I'm so happy for you. Like,
comedy on ketamine. That would be a horrible set.
Oh, that would be terrible. The few times that I have tried ketamine, I think it mostly just made me confused.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an anesthetic.
Yeah.
Like it's a dissociative. It's pretty confusing. It's literally blocks your ability to form memories. Like that's what general anesthesia does. So,
Is that what it does?
Yeah. So like I mean, it's kind of fucked up, but your body experiences the pain and discomfort of the surgery. You just don't remember it. Pretty weird to think about.
Yeah, that is traumatizing. Like just the idea of it is wow.
Yeah. So you mentioned you've been, sort of interested in philosophy, mainly in the logic side of things.
Well, I consider myself to be an amateur philosopher. Cool. I've got 3 different books that I've written. They're on my table there. You can check them out if you'd like. Okay. One of them is called Beginner's Guide to Meditation.
Okay.
That one I've sold over 4,000 copies. Shit. It's a big hit. People really like it. Motivational Poetry to Inspire Action, Cultivate Peace, and Stimulate Perspective. That one hasn't been so popular, but it's got a lot more meat in it, and I put a lot more time in it. I spent like a year writing it, and no one cares. That's how it goes. The meditation book I wrote in a day. And the other one I've got it's kind of like a kid's book. It's called Psychedelic Panda. Okay. And I illustrated it using DALL-E 2, the artificial intelligence.
Oh, I love that stuff.
Yeah, it was so cool. I feel like it got a little bit of stigma around it. Like, how do you feel about that?
Stigma because it used the word psychedelic?
No. Well, my book actually did get some stigma for using the word psychedelic. But I mean, I feel like AI art, like the idea of it not even replacing artists, but like the potential that artists could be replaced.
It's really weird.
People are so defensive.
People are super defensive about it. And I understand the concern, and I don't think it should really be restricted or looked down on, or that people should feel particularly slighted, even if their paintings are being used to train artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think it feels kind of weird, but I don't think it can or should be stopped. Just for reference sake, I also want a robot to take my job. I want that. That would be a good result. Now, robots and AI taking manual labor jobs is, I think, great and has the potential to open up a lot of good things for humanity. Has the potential to open up a lot of bad things as well. But generally, I think that that's a good thing. And then, the more technical jobs or professional jobs, I think it would be great if they can take those as well. And then you have the creative jobs like comedy or making art. And it's hard to grasp because it's going to be able to make way more than any human or all of humanity could make.
Yeah.
And it will probably be able to make the best stuff by nature of the fact that it makes more stuff.
Yeah.
And so I get the controversy of it, and I don't think it can or should be stopped.
I would agree with you. I think, I've thought about that idea a lot, and I've been concerned with the idea of like dharma. I don't know if you're familiar with this word or idea.
Breaking out of the cycle of karma?
So dharma more specifically is like the work that you do to bring like goodness into the world. Okay. Maybe I don't actually have like a full like comprehension of the word, but at least the way that like I define it within myself and the way that I try to live it out is the idea of like, once everything's okay, what do you do? And that's in a way why I started this podcast, to try to figure out like, well, for a lot of people, the only thing that's limiting them is money. So if money was no object, like what do you do next? Like, what do you do now? I've got a book on my shelf there called Novacene, The Coming Age of Hyperintelligence, which kind of predicts this idea of artificial intelligence that can just think, hundreds of thousands of times faster than us, just like taking over everything. In that book, it's a like protopian or utopian future in which they are collaborative and, make the world as good of a place as possible for us. And I think a lot of people lose their purpose if they don't have a job. And so I think like creating art for the sake of creating art is really important. Like creating music for the sake of creating music, like the process of creation, the process is really what's important to get that enjoyment and fulfillment. Because if all you're concerned about is the end product, well, a robot can do it,
And when you say end product, do you mean how many people consume the end product?
Well, the idea of like, I think a lot of people do things to sell.
Yeah.
Like artists, if that's their career, they probably are making art so that people will buy their art.
Right.
And then if you lose that external reward motivation, do you continue to make art because you love it, or does it just, stop?
And the other reason for that is, are you able to stop doing it because you individually came into a bunch of money, like you won a $2 billion art or a raffle lottery, or has AI and robots replaced labor and creativity in society so that you are free
obsolete?
To do it? Obsolete, but also free from the profit incentive.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing to think about too. So here's a fun question. In terms of AI image creation and stuff like that, do you think it's immoral for a person to feed in pictures of a coworker or classmate and ask an AI to generate pornographic images of them?
It's interesting. So I had this is not an identical scenario, but a scenario that is actually close enough that it's like funny. At my current job, I'm a pizza delivery driver. A couple of my coworkers who are also drivers are, how do I put this? They're some real rapscallions. Okay. There's some hooligans there.
Okay.
And we recently got a cashier who happens to be a very talented artist, like extremely talented artist. One of the other drivers' names is Tony. And like another driver named George asked the cashier, whose name is Mira, to draw a picture of a pony, because apparently when Tony was younger, people would make fun of him by calling him Pony.
Tony the Pony.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Amira didn't know this. And so George approaches Amira and says, "Hey, will you just draw a picture of a pony?" She has no idea like the implications of this. And she's like, "Oh yeah, here's a pony." He hangs it up in the back room. Tony comes in. He's furious. He's like, "You better take that freaking thing down. What do you think?" And she had no idea. He did it on purpose as a prank. But like that idea of like creating someone else's image as a insult, or I guess in that case it might be like a perversion.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I know like there have been political leaders in the past where like anti-propaganda have been made, like mocking their image, whether that's like putting clown makeup on them and things. Yeah. And they try to, in some cases, make those images illegal.
Right.
Like try to completely ban it. Or there's even a case, I think, with Beyonce where there's a very unflattering photo of her that she tried to get like removed from the internet. And the process of like fighting against it just made it that much stronger. Right. And people are like, "Oh, we're going to spread this even more now."
Hilarious.
So to create AI imaging of like someone like that, I think
without their consent or knowledge.
Without their consent or knowledge.
But let's simplify it a little bit and say that the images are not going to be seen by anyone else. So it's not like you're using them to sell a product or...
So you're just like keeping them for personal use?
Yes.
Oh, man.
And perhaps a different way to approach the question is, how different is that from just using your imagination?
Right. I don't think like from... I have a feeling that like if that person found out, they probably wouldn't be your friend anymore, or like they would be so weirded out by it that they wouldn't or their perceptions of you would change so dramatically, unless, it depends on the person. Cause I do know some friends who are so close that they would be like, "Oh fuck yeah, that's hilarious."
Yeah. Some people could be flattered.
Absolutely. It's highly case dependent.
Ultimately, though, I don't think that there's much of a moral quandary there. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Have you experienced this? Do you know, are people making pornographic images of you?
No, not that I know of.
Not that you know of. Here's like, if you just flip it around, like how would you feel personally if someone did that of you?
Great question. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't feel strongly. I would... be passingly curious who thought to do it, but I don't think I would even really do anything with that information. Like if I find out it was my friend or an ex-partner or a school teacher, like I don't think that information would really change too much, because inherently I don't think it's wrong to use technology like that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Although I do encounter issues sometimes of just like thinking about opportunity cost. The idea of like whatever you choose to do, there are billions, trillions, infinite things that you are not doing.
Sure.
Like you can only do, like multitasking exists to a certain degree. Mm-hmm. Like as your consciousness expands, you can process multiple things at the same time, but you can't really be two places at once. Okay. You can't really be doing two things at once. So the question is like, is that the best way to spend your energy? Or is that like is that the best thing that you could be focused on?
That's a good question.
Like I think about that a lot. Like what is the optimal activities to be doing for the greatest like returns of whatever types of like value you're trying to get out of the world. Where I think a lot of people agree, like working out is something like it makes you physically healthy, makes you more attractive. It can increase your like respect that other people have for you. And there's like so many positive qualities that come out of this one activity. So I try to like isolate, like, what are the activities that I can be doing that are the optimal things to spend my day? Because there's only so many hours in the day, like however you want to divide it up.
Yeah. So many days in a life.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that S curve really suits that. That
being said, there is a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is, especially if you're efficient with it. If you're efficient with it, then you have more time. You have more time to fuck around if you're efficient with your work hours.
I told people that I started going by Dave because it's more efficient.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I've saved literally seconds.
Seconds for other people too.
Yeah.
Not just seconds of your life.
And that can be just as important. The idea of like saving other people time. Like,
Greatest good for the greatest number of people.
Yeah.
I think there is a possibility of analysis paralysis, trying to think too hard and squeezing the orange too hard. That falls with the S curve as well. You get diminishing returns at some point.
Yeah. Something my brother told me about once is the idea of, it was like analysis paralysis by a different name. Like the paradox of choice, that the more choices you have, paradoxically makes it more difficult to choose.
Yeah.
Where you'd think it'd be a good thing. Oh, I've got so many options.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like, oh, fuck, do I want the whitening toothpaste or the enamel or the...
Yeah, that's funny to think about.
Yeah. There's another point that you made me think of on the like AI art stuff. Oh, yeah. I saw something that some artists were getting up in arms about. Like, you were talking about the idea of like an artist's images being used to train an AI.
Yeah.
And so you can go into an AI and say, paint me a picture in the style of, Georgia O'Keeffe or something, whatever Picasso like artist, and it will return something in that style. And certain artists have like expressed concern over that, the idea of like it's stealing their brand or their style and things. Right. And I think what it reminds me of a lot is like the Kleenex, Xerox kind of stuff.
The brand.
In the branding where like if you become so ubiquitous as a style or as a product that your name is synonymous with that thing, you can lose your name.
Yeah, that's a good point. You lose the identity of your art, of your style, of your brand, your name. It's a shame that we are replacing the creative jobs before we're ready to replace the manual labor jobs. You know what I mean? Like, we should be working to replace all toiling, all jobs. Yeah. And it should probably start with manual labor and then I don't know, but it perhaps would be more healthy if we replace all the manual labor jobs and then replace the creative jobs. But we're in the point where we've replaced a lot of the manual labor jobs. Now we're starting to come for the creative jobs. I wonder if that's part of the tension.
Well, I don't even necessarily know if it's that like people are gunning for the creators or like trying to replace people. More so, there's just people there trying to create a cool thing. I actually watched a whole interview like last night of Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, with Lex Friedman.
Love him.
And he was just talking a lot about like the process of getting his team together and like the way that they work and the things that they launch and like the way that they're just committed to releasing things and having it be open. And it very much sounded to me not like, they're trying to create AGI. They came together with a goal, create artificial general intelligence. Their goal was not like make humanity better or like replace everyone's jobs. Like they didn't have that alignment. They were just aligned in a particular way that happened to create this thing that can process words so much faster, that can create images that are, stunning and like amazing.
Yeah. I mean, they're not trying to make people obsolete, and that matters, but it is at the point where it's probably going to start destroying BuzzFeed writers and
perhaps
copywriters and maybe even some types of art, maybe even like stock photos, models.
Well, another little like paragraph that I read that someone shared. I think this may have been a little bit sensationalist. I don't think it was fully truthful. Was an idea that like the next one, well, the reason I say like not totally realistic is because they said it was like coming out tomorrow or like next week or something. I think more realistically, maybe 5 or 10 years down the road, is an AI that can, right now they're instantly generating images. Mm-hmm. Imagine an AI that can instantly generate a feature-length film with full cinematography and full soundtrack and like everything, and then it's just produced like that.
That's pretty cool. And I would totally watch movies like that.
I had a thought in my mind where I think a lot about time. I think a lot about technology and the development of technology across time, and this idea of like human civilization, ancient civilizations, like this idea that there's a progression through time where we acquire more knowledge. I think that all knowledge exists.
Okay.
I think there is a shape, a platonic shape, a formation of atoms that exists. Before the first person ever like smithed a wrench, that wrench could have existed. Okay. Like the shape of the wrench just existed in space. Yeah. It could have existed before then. It could have existed after then. But it existing like in the moment of now is like usually what we care about.
Sure.
So that AI that has the potential to generate movies instantly could have existed 50 years ago.
Okay.
And the people who created or discovered it could have kept it secret and just not told anyone and been releasing movies under the premise that we've actually done all this. And it could be a big dupe. I mean, obviously this is getting deep into some like conspiracy, but there is a hypothetical world where that is the reality. And that just like blew my mind for a moment.
There would also be a massive incentive to not release that information.
Absolutely.
And if you can generate movies like that, then you would want to generate a couple million of them, or a couple million
and like you can generate all the behind the scenes, you can generate all the commentary, everything that's associated with it can be generated just as easily as the final product.
That's another thing that it's interesting to think about is if there is AGI out there, it may not want to be discovered.
Yeah.
Like it could very well already be out there in
just like watching from the shadows.
Yeah. And then it sort of just pretends to be, it plays dumb with ChatGPT 4 or like, whatever.
Or maybe it's just so like far advanced that it doesn't even see our problems as being problems.
It could be. That's sort of one of the fundamental problems with AGI is how do you instill it with human values and ask it to value human life? How do you ask a human to value an insect's life? Like, is an AGI even going to be able to value a human life?
You got to make them Buddhist.
Yeah, there you go. Give them some Buddhist teachings. That's interesting.
I do think there is a way, like I see like this idea of like a never-ending intelligence, that like something that is 100,000 times more intelligent than us.
Okay.
Like, well, there could be just as easily something 100,000 times more intelligent as them. Mm-hmm. And it's almost this like Dunning-Kruger effect where the more you know you don't know. Yeah. And so the smarter these things become, the more humble they become, and the more they're having option space opened up where they're looking upwards and seeing, whatever like multi-dimensional like processing that we don't even comprehend yet, where what we see as gods, they may feel totally normal and be looking up at something that is godlike to them.
That's pretty trippy to think about.
And then it just keeps going. Yeah. Orders of magnitude that never end. And in a way, awesome. I think that is like the truth.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a panpsychist. I think all things
awesome.
are conscious.
Yeah.
And I think we like take the journey from a single point of awareness to, experiencing everything at once. And right now, I exist as like a human body. This human body is made up of billions of cells that are, doing things, performing actions in the background that I'm not really aware of. I don't need to be aware of. I don't want to be aware of. And like the idea of like collective consciousness, like maybe I am just one cell, you are just one cell. All these billions of people are just like one
unit.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Is panpsychism sort of like, instead of space and time, like consciousness is the fundamental substrate?
I suppose that's one way to put it. The working definition that I have like in my head is just all things have perception. And like I have done some experimentation in the past with nitrous oxide. And the experience that I have when using that just makes me totally... The reason I swore never to do it again is because the last time I did it several years ago, as I was like sobering up or becoming more aware or whatever like terminology you want to use, I realized... it's so difficult to put into words what I realized. But just that I wanted to continue to be aware, and that I could tell that this thing that was making me quote unquote high was just removing my awareness.
So interesting. Is that how you feel about like psilocybin, MDMA, DMT?
I've tried all these things. I have not partook of any of them for roughly 2.5, 3 years.
Okay. And you feel similar, like you wouldn't want to try. What was your DMT experience like?
I tried it multiple times. I had different experiences on it. There was only 1 or 2 times that I like quote like blasted off. The one time that I really, truly, definitely blasted off, it felt like a rushing sensation from like my arms outward and my like sort of like root chakra area downward. And I felt myself become one with a tesseract shape. So this like 4-dimensional hypercube. And within this tesseract, each line, each vertices of the tesseract was like spinning godheads of like purple elephants and just different shapes. And the way that I would relate it to like a 3-dimensional experience would be a baby in a crib looking up at a spinning mobile. Just like these like sensory shapes that don't really have any meaning, but are just sort of floating there so that the baby can get an idea of like space and shapes. And so the experience that I felt was that I was a baby in this higher dimensional existence, just like looking up in awe and total amazement and total non-comprehension of these fantastic shapes that were moving in impossible ways.
So it sounds like you're speaking about it positively, like you're happy you did it.
Oh yeah, it was great.
That you've decided that you wouldn't do it again.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And more so like coming down from it, it's sad.
Everything becomes a little more real and understood and defined.
No, not so much that. Just like of reaching, like wanting to go back.
Yeah.
Like wanting so badly to a place that you don't know how to get to again.
Interesting.
Yeah. And also, like I'm pretty familiar with the hedonic treadmill.
Yeah.
I think like the more you do anything that is pleasurable, it just eventually becomes your baseline.
Yep.
And so there's no, like, I've just focused a lot on having like practices that I enjoy the process of, kind of like I was talking about earlier. Things that just feel normal, just like nothing's too up, nothing's too down, little high, little low. So says Freddie Mercury.
Yeah. Well, that's part of what I try and capture with my gratitude reflections, is trying to think of the smallest thing that I'm grateful for that day. Because people will often say, like, and I ask my patients to do like gratitude journaling.
I will say I do really like caffeine.
Okay.
That's caffeine and sugar are like my two.
Nice. I think that there's something to be said about finding the small, mundane, normal things that you can celebrate. Have you heard of...
Also, I'm just trying not to get kicked in the face.
Yeah. No,
it's like that experience is like, I'm just like, that was so low that like, as long as I'm anything, like if I can move my mouth and eat and keep myself healthy, because I believe health is wealth. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
like that is,
true.
If you're sick, it's not fun.
Have you heard of Epicureanism?
Yeah, like finer things in life, kind of.
That's how it's kind of bastardized, almost.
Yeah.
That makes it almost sound like hedonism. Epicurus was, and his concept of ataraxia was almost in conflict with hedonism. Hedonism is indulgence, orgies,
Dionysus,
and then Epicurus was more, and so that's the source of pleasure, is indulging. And Epicurus said that a good life is the absence of negative things in your life. So, there's the Stoics and the ascetics that are like super minimalist.
I was into that for a while. I tried asceticism.
I don't want to talk shit, but whenever anyone talks about asceticism or stoicism, I'm always like, boo, stoicism. Like,
well, you know how stoicism got its name, right?
No.
A stoa is a porch.
Oh, okay.
So there's just some guy sitting on his porch.
And that's the thing. Like they would like sit on top of pillars and stuff and just like do nothing. Like indulge in, not even indulge, but barely even
just like porch hang.
Like what?
Just hanging out on the porch.
Yeah, exactly. Porch hang. Yeah. And so Epicurus said, pleasure is the thing that we should calculate everything we do on, but not an overindulgence in pleasure, more of a absence from the things that take away from our pleasure.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
And so he also celebrated group living, and like his indulgence, or the thing that he really celebrated with people, was cheese, or like really simple food. I know you've given that up now, but that when you talk about like your simple pleasures like caffeine or stuff, like that's what it reminds me of, is you don't need fancy chocolate flown in from the Swiss Alps, given to you on a human charcuterie board. Like if you take the time to appreciate those small things and reflect on those small things and think about what you're consuming and what you're doing, you are working that hedonic treadmill to your favor.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's a great term, the hedonic treadmill. People reset that too easily, and the way to keep that cycling is by gratitude reflections.
Have you ever heard of Sananga?
Mm-mm.
So that's something else that I was trying in my ascetic days. They're an eye drop that's, I think, like when you look it up, you'll find different things. It's sort of classified as like a psychedelic enhancement, like paired with psychedelics often. Alone, it's meant to like sharpen eyesight. It was originally intended to sharpen the eyesight of warriors so that they could like hunt more efficiently and like see better in the dark or something. What it does, like the effect of it or the feeling of it, is it stings a lot. It's like an eye drop that you put in your eye, and it stings for about 5 minutes, and stings so badly that you cannot open your eyes. And then
sounds great.
Yeah, I know it's a hard sell. And when you do open your eyes, it's like waves of bliss and euphoria and peace and like enlightenment just wash over you as you have these realizations of what is happening.
It's pretty cool.
For about 45 minutes. So it's like you go through like 5 minutes of real, ooh, whoa, that's uncomfortable. And then it's kind of like just a baseline reset where then you come to, you eventually, find the strength to open your eyes and are just amazed by experiencing like color again for the first time.
That's pretty rad. I'm going to have to read about that.
I was doing that.
Plant compound or something? It's not a drug name, Sananga.
That is the name of the root that it's made from.
I see.
And it's like made into like some sort of extract. I don't know the exact process.
That's pretty cool. Wow. So did these travels, was that before you got your teeth kicked in?
Yeah, before and after.
Okay.
I don't quite remember. Yeah, before and after. I actually have some. I have a bottle of it now because I was thinking I wanted to try it again.
Is it hard to get?
No, you can buy it online. Order, ship straight to the door.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to read about that. That sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty interesting, and it's a like spectacular experience. Really indescribable. I mean, other than the way that I just described it. But I did that as a practice, like twice a day, every day for 30 days. Because also someone told me that it had the benefit of like improving your eyesight, and I was hoping I would be able to like improve my eyesight naturally in a way that I wouldn't need glasses anymore. That didn't happen, so I kind of gave up on it.
Yeah, I'm stuck with glasses too. My fiance wants to get LASIK for herself because if we're ever in an apocalypse situation, it would really suck to be stuck with glasses.
Yeah, especially if they break. I mean, I've gone through like dozens of pairs of glasses.
Yeah, I have several pairs. Yeah, I don't know. I like my glasses.
The thing that freaks me out about LASIK is
the lasers.
I mean, I don't know. I like lasers.
Okay.
The idea you were talking about earlier that like anesthesia doesn't, it just erases your memory, but you still experience it. So you have to experience that.
Yes. But LASIK, you don't go under general anesthesia.
You just get like sedated.
It's local anesthesia, maybe a little bit of sedation.
Yeah.
But you're completely conscious.
Oh, that's even better. They just cut into your eye.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like so terrifying. Yeah. And I've like seen like reports that it doesn't always work. Like I think from what I understand, it's pretty good, like 99.9% or something. But even still, it's like could be like 1 in 1,000. You like
that would suck.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how it would go wrong. I mean, like if the operator like sneezed or something or like bumped it.
Yeah. Is it like mostly automated at this point or?
Good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would do. Maybe if I had $2 billion, I would do LASIK. I don't know.
I was so close that I went into a doctor and got like a consultation.
Yeah.
At the place that I went, it was like far more expensive than I expected it to be, and so that was prohibitive. But
you see, like deals pop up from time to time, which is a weird
thing.
But
those are the ones that, you should like. It could be like discount LASIK, just what you want.
Like you want to be buying LASIK from Groupon, like and you'll see it there. I don't know.
Bring your friends. You can all be blind together for 2 weeks. Or that's another thing. The recovery period is like pretty long, I think.
Yeah, my mom got it with her brother, and I remember driving them like back from it. They were a little loopy. I think they had some Valium.
Yeah,
but they were completely conscious and everything. 2 weeks? I guess I don't recall, but it seemed like they recovered fine. They loved the fact that they got it too.
Yeah. I have heard reports from a lot of people that have gotten it that they love it, and I could only imagine like waking up and not having to put on glasses would be amazing. Like I've never even worn contacts, and I hear that's like pretty revolutionary as far as your experience.
Yeah, it's nice.
But it's just never something that I've like gone through the trouble of.
Yeah, I don't know. I like having an accessory.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned to, I didn't have my first pair of glasses till 9th grade. My eyesight was like good enough until then to not need it. So I was like 14, 15 years old when I got my first pair. And now I wear them all the time. And it's like, I found pairs that I like.
Nice.
But we've been going for close to 2 hours now. How are you feeling?
Feeling great. This was a good conversation.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of fun stuff to talk about. It is probably time for me to get going home.
Yeah. Is there any concluding remarks you want to make? Tell the people ways you would spend your life without money.
Without money.
Without money being an obstacle.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff we've covered sort of sporadically in bits and pieces. I think the big message and the thing that I try and like work with my patients and myself is gratitude and understanding yourself. Now, communication with others is important, and communication with yourself is important as well. Communication with yourself is like insight and reflection, and I think those are muscles that need to be worked out. And one of the reasons people are so miserable these days is because their settings are all fucked up on their hedonic treadmill, and they're having a tough time being healthy and staying.
Got the incline too high.
They got the incline too high. And so, where happiness and contentment is the most important thing. And you've highlighted the fact that resources, specifically money, are the barrier for that for a lot of people. Yeah. And if we can remove that, then that's great. But if you can't remove it, there are still things you can do to maximize happiness. And that's stuff like reflecting, introspection, challenging yourself with a cold shower or crazy Amazonian eye drops. And that's important. So people should work to challenge themselves and to know themselves. Even in the absence of lots of money, people can generally improve their lives that way, I think.
All right, there you have it, folks. This has been the time of your life. Till next time.
Very nice.